Hello everyone, how is everyone doing? It's Chizoba here. So today we'll be talking about neglecting your spouse. When we get married, after some time, maybe we feel like, oh, well, we are now together, so there is no need to really try to please one another. Sometimes neglect creeps in and begins to eat into our marriage. It's very important for us to understand that we cannot neglect our spouse. When we neglect our spouse, we are not being kind. First Corinthians 13, verse 4 and 5 says, Love is kind. Love does not seek its own. It does not seek its own. It's always there. It's always there to understand what the other person is going through. And in the context of marriage, we have to see it from that our spouse's point of view. Because when we are bent on doing our own thing, doing the things that we love, and not even caring about what our spouse really loves, then that is neglect. When our spouse is crying and then we feel like, well, let them cry, they wipe their tears when they are done. That is neglect. That does not build love in marriage. It does not show that that person cares. And that is what is happening in various marriages today. We need to be able to understand that when we care deeply, when we are involved in how the other person feels, it makes the bond of marriage and bond of love grow. It does not diminish it. Please let us start today to love our spouses more intimately. Let us begin to care about what they care about. Let us begin to love them in kindness. Kindness means that you care. You care enough to show empathy, to be there for that person when they really need you. When they are sad, it should make you feel bad too. You should be there to comfort your spouse. But a situation whereby one spouse feels like, if they are sad, what's my own? It is their own business. Let them be sad now. After, let them go and deal with it. It does not help the other person. Marriage is about two people coming together to be one flesh. It is not about two people that came together and then they are doing their own separate things. No, it's about two people bonding in the spirit, in emotions, in sadness, in light, in happiness, in joy. The Bible says, husbands, live joyfully. That's in Ecclesiastes chapter 4, verse 9. It says, live joyfully with the wife of your youth that you are having in this world that is vain. Joyfully means that even in times of trouble, you are joyful. It's not about what you have today or what you don't have. It's not about what you can do and what you cannot do. Joy comes and overflows even when things are not working right, even when things are not the best that we think they should be. Joy overflows. And that is why we are called to comfort our wives. We are called to comfort our husbands, to encourage them when they are sad, to show empathy, to love them, not neglect them. When you don't observe to look at the face of your husband when he's sad and be there to show love and care and feel their pain, then you are not playing your role. We are called in marriage to be one flesh. And one flesh means one flesh. If the other person is being pinched, it pains the other person. It is 1+1 becoming 1, not 1+1 becoming 2. And so we have to learn to understand that is important. It is very, very important that we feel the pain of our spouse. We feel their happiness. We share in their ups and we share in their downs. It's very important for spouses to begin to listen to pay attention, to listen to what their spouse is saying. They might be crying out loud to be heard, and the other person does not pay attention. That is neglect. And that means that person is not playing their role as their better half. Also, sometimes one spouse is, maybe say the husband is saying something, and the wife is like, please, just leave me. I'm not even ready to listen. It was my own business in that. Well, deal with it. No, that is neglecting your spouse's feeling. That is neglecting your spouse's emotions. You must pay attention, because if you don't, before you know it, the heart begins to drift away. They no longer want to share things with you. Now the heart becomes empty. That emptiness is there, even though they are married, but they don't want to share things because they feel like you really don't care about what happens to them, and that is neglect. These things drill emotional holes in the heart of their spouse, and now makes the spouse to feel empty. It makes the spouse to feel uneasy where they are. There are some spouses, they don't even look each other eye to eye. When one person is here, the other person will go to another place. They can't even stay in one place. It looks like they can't even share one chair. They can't even share one couch. We are to enjoy one another. A situation whereby we no longer enjoy each other's company, that is a big problem, and that is as a result of neglect. These things degenerate and makes the other person to now begin to seek someone out there, maybe a friend who they are even closer to. There are some spouses that are closer to their friends, closer to their family members, closer to all other people more than they are closer to their spouse. That is a problem right there. God made marriage because marriage is an example of man's relationship with God. And his desire for intimacy with his people is the same thing he desires for a man and his wife to do, to be intimate in the soul, in our senses, in our heart, in everything, to give our all. When one person is neglecting the other because they feel like what's my own, they now begin to seek other people out there to fill that void, instead of the void that God has created his wife or her husband to fill. When your spouse now begins to enjoy other people's company more than they are enjoying your company, there is a big problem, and we cannot afford to let it happen. We cannot afford to let it continue. We are here to build our marriages so that our marriages can be a heaven on earth. It is God's desire that we enjoy our marriages in totality. Marriage is for two people to look into each other's eyes and tell themselves how they actually feel. When one person cannot look into another person's eyes to tell them how they feel, there is a problem right there. And we need to begin to communicate effectively. We cannot simply ignore these little things, because those are the things that are making marriages, making husbands and wives to drift apart without even them understanding or recognizing it. Love does not seek its own. Any person that is getting married should understand one thing: they are no longer going to be able to please themselves only. Now, it is first of all please their wives or their husbands before they please themselves. Also, when a spouse only cares about things, how it favors them and how they are happy about it, without understanding or caring about what their husband or their wives feel, that is neglect. We have to begin to put our spouses first. to begin to look into the hearts of our spouses, begin to look into the eyes of our spouses, to nurture them when they are not okay, to love them and hold their hands and assure them that it's okay, to encourage, to love, to speak kindly. When we do this, it means we are paying attention. It means we are not neglecting our spouse. When we make decisions together in love, it means we are not neglecting our spouses. When we are able to give our best self to our husband or to our wife, then we are not neglecting that spouse. The relationship between a father or mother and their children is nothing compared to the relationship between a husband and his wife. It is a mystery that God made. Someone will say, why would I? Is it not somebody that I just met? Why wouldn't I love my father and my mother that gave birth to me more than what is this person saying? It is what God made. Marriage between a husband and a wife is a typical replica of God's relationship with man. So no matter how close you are to your father or your mother or your siblings, it is nothing compared to the relationship you have with your husband or your wife. Your wife or your husband is the most important person in your life, not your children. So for those women that when they are supposed to pay attention to their husbands, they will now run to their children, you are not doing right. You are neglecting your husband. Or for those men, when they are supposed to pay attention to their wives, it is that time they decide to watch their favorite football match, or their video game, or they watch that TV show or news. Yes, those things are very good, but not as important as your spouse. We have to be able to lay our priorities right and put these things in order so that our marriages will not suffer. Neglecting one spouse is wrong, and we should not do it. We cannot do it, and we cannot continue to do it. We have to learn to start practicing today. In fact, it is wickedness not to pay attention to your spouse when they are hurting or when they have one concern or the other, because the Bible says, if you know what to do and you do not do it, to that man it is sin. And you know that you are supposed to pay attention to your spouse and you are not doing it, it is sin to you. It is sin to me if I do that. So please let us stop doing it. We need to lay our priorities right. Pay utmost attention to your spouse's needs first. Women, please, it's not when your spouse, your husband needs you in bed. That is when you remember what to do with your child. That is when you remember that you need to do one thing, or call your friend or chat with someone on social media. Please, let us put an end to this thing. Let us build our marriages, build our relationships. Nothing is more important than my spouse. Nothing. Every other thing is secondary. Please, let us line these things up properly so that we can make great marriages, so that we can make great companions. We can be the best that God has called us to be. So let us start paying more attention to our spouse's needs, what they care about, what they are interested in, listening to them, even if it doesn't make sense, not judging them when they need that encouragement, and comforting them. Let us start doing all this. Please, so that we don't neglect our spouses. Thank you so much for watching. Please subscribe, share with your friends, okay? So that together we can all build a marriage we will enjoy and not endure. Thank you and have a blessed day. Bye.